A GMO is an organism in which the genetic material has been altered in a way that does not occur naturally. So how can a GMO be created? I would like to give you a very simple example. Let's assume that this is a bacterium with its genetic material. And this would be the chromosome of another organism. For example, a chromosome of an animal. Scientists can take a piece of the genetic material of the bacterium and insert it into the chromosome of this animal. And this would then give rise to a genetically modified animal.
Humans have been drinking it for millennia. Wholesome, healthy, full cream milk. But this dairy in Beijing isn't quite what it seems. These cows have all been genetically modified, and this is human breast milk. The Chinese scientists responsible successfully inserted the human breast milk gene into a cow embryo and then implanted it into a surrogate. The result is a transgenic herd of 300, and milk the scientists claim is healthier than the bovine variety.
Scientists at Ag Research tried for 6 years to create a cow like Daisy. The eureka moment came when they milked her in April.
We were very excited by seeing the result.
What scientists wanted was a cow that produced a milk that could be drunk by the 1 in 50 people, mostly infants, who are allergic to milk. Their aim was to reduce a protein called BLG that triggered the allergy. What they got was even better.
We could actually not see any of the protein.
FDA recently approved the first biological product made from genetically engineered animals. The product, which is called Atrin, is an anticoagulant.
Atrin is a therapeutic protein made from the milk of genetically engineered goats. These goats have had a segment of DNA introduced into their genes that causes the female goats to produce human antithrombin in their milk. FDA's approval prohibits using these animals for food or feed and also ensures that the genetic modification is not harming the animals. The manufacturer will continue to monitor the product's safety, including the possible development of immune responses in patients who receive repeated Atrin treatment.
Just how do you milk a rabbit? More importantly, why would you want to?
The genetically modified rabbits produce a very valuable drug in their milk, which is used in treating cancer.
Here at a scientific research centre on the outskirts of Moscow, these animals are aiding scientists in cutting-edge research. Welcome to the pioneering new world of farming pharmaceuticals.
You can look at this open and you can take a look and see.
Well, it just looks like normal milk.
Looks like absolutely normal milk. If you actually do an analysis of it and you look at all the components of the milk, the only thing you'll find is different is that there's one extra protein in there, and that's our spider silk protein. All the rest of it looks absolutely like normal goat's milk.
Scientists identified the 2 genes in spider DNA that make silk. They copied one of the genes and spliced it into the DNA of goats so that they would make spider silk protein in their milk. Spider silk has been shown to have more tensile strength than steel and Kevlar. It can stretch to 140% of its length without breaking and remains flexible even in extreme cold. It's also so lightweight that a mere pound of the stuff could form a single strand long enough to stretch around the equator.
This is a story about silk and milk. The silk is from golden orb weave spiders.
Here you go, pumpkin.
They're incredibly inquisitive, they're a lot of fun.
The milk from specially bred goats.
A lot of interest in spider silk fibers because
They're stronger than almost any other man-made fiber, and they also are elastic.
Because it's stronger ounce for ounce than other materials, there are many possible medical uses, from artificial ligaments to sutures for surgery.
So the question is, how do you produce large amounts of the material?
Spider farms just don't work. They tend to kill each other. So molecular biologist Randy Lewis figured out how to put the spider's silk-making genes into goats. 4 drops of protein processed from the milk can be spun into 4 yards of silk.
So there'll be a lot of applications: eye surgery, plastic surgery, neurosurgery.
Disadvantages. Health. Allergies are a concern when discussing the topic of genetic modification of organisms. There is a possibility that introducing a new gene into milk production may create a new allergen. The immune system could interpret something as foreign and react accordingly. There are also unknown effects on human health, whether it may cause infertility, immune problems, or changes in the organism's digestive tract.
Cost. The cost to produce one transgenic animal can be up to $300,000, and this does not include all the failed attempts. Once this technology is perfected, it could be a huge cost saver for pharmaceutical companies as well as for developing countries. But the costs of development and testing are huge, and since these technologies are still in the developing stages, the total expense is still to be determined. Safety. These technologies have not been around long enough for us to know what their long-term effects are. Long-term clinical trials have to be done to figure out if they are safe for human consumption. These milk products, we're not sure.
As of right now, genetically modified organisms are not allowed in the food chain, and more research, extensive research, needs to be done on this topic.
This also raises the question, what do we do with these animals once they have outlived their use? So, cull cows, can you cull them? Can they go into the food system? What do you do with them?
Can you eat a genetically modified goat? We don't know.
Ethics.
Ultimate responsibility in the work that we do, if we create something that is alive, which is arguable, by the way, how then do we take precautions? How do we take care of it? There's even an ethical question: if we create life, then are we responsible to take care of it, rather than responsible trying to say contain it and keep it away from living systems? So there are lots of ethical issues in that point.
But anti-GM lobbyists are alarmed, not least because Daisy was born without a tail and her creators aren't sure why.
They proved it in theory, but as I say, at what cost? This animal's got no tail. What else the genetic engineering and cloning processes have done to it, we don't know.
That's because Daisy was created in this lab, cloned in part using man-made material. It's far from a natural process, and out of 100 embryos, Daisy was the only survivor.
The efficiencies are always relatively low, and a lot of pregnancies are lost in the early stages of gestation.
Many animals would have died or suffered severe damage in the process of this, and they've ended up with one calf. It's got no tail. They've got a cup of milk out of it.
And while that cup may be full of potential, the scientists are keenly aware that GM is a controversial concept, and it'll take years, decades even, before the milk is approved for human consumption.
There's an article that just came out, I believe it was today, Natural News, Mike Adams, they posted something talking about GMO cows, how they've cloned these cows to produce genetically modified milk that are supposed to be allergen-free, or at least have a reduced number of allergens in them. I'm sure they have a bunch of other stuff. They say even in the article they claim that the cow that they cloned was born without a tail. You know, so it maybe doesn't have any allergens, but probably has other things in there that can harm you and your family.
It's really creepy what they're doing with this stuff. Even if it wasn't physically dangerous to us, it's still a really bad practice because of the monopoly and because we don't want to eradicate natural supplies of food and livestock and so forth, we don't need purely synthetic breast milk. We probably should just promote mothers still producing breast milk for their own children. That seems like a common sense approach.
Critics say the risks of transgenic food aren't yet fully understood. But while the West worries about the dangers and morality of genetic modification, China says those scruples are misplaced.
There are 1.5 billion people in the world who don't have enough to eat. It's our duty to develop science and technology, not to hold it back. We need to feed people first, before we consider ideals and convictions.
China's pushing the boundaries of genetic modification, seemingly unperturbed by any ethical concerns.
If a pharmaceutical company came in and asked you to bring GMOs on your farm and milk them for extra premium money, would you?
Money's money. But it doesn't mess up the next generation of cows.
Well, all your cows are going to be genetically modified.
Are they paying you bring the cows?
Your milk wouldn't go to consumers, it would go to a pharmaceutical company. Would you care?
Yeah, whatever. It goes all the place anyway.
Doesn't matter.
I don't know where it goes. It goes to Open, and then it goes halfway across the country, probably.
Do you think that the animals' health and welfare is affected by genetically modifying them?
Yeah. It's still as susceptible to diseases as the other cows?
Yeah.
Are they more susceptible to them?
We don't know.
Then yeah, I would say so.
Would you feel comfortable milking a genetically modified animal?
Would I feel comfortable?
Yeah.
Serious?
Would you drink genetically modified milk?
I'll drink milk.
Would you drink hypoallergenic milk?
Can you use it in a sentence?
Do you know what a GMO is?
Yes, that's an organism that has some genes from another organism, like corn, that produces Bt toxin.
What do you think of GM animals?
I don't know much about that. I don't understand this motivation for genetically modified animals. Are they safe to consume? Will their genetics be patented? How are they better than normal animals? I guess I would have to learn a bit more, but it makes me a bit uncomfortable to think about it.
If a company, say a pharmaceutical company, came to you and asked if you would manage or work with a herd of GM goats that produce some sort of beneficial pharmaceutical protein in their milk, would you be interested in accepting the job?
I suppose I would consider it. I would really need to be educated on it more. I wouldn't be able to do the job unless I sincerely believed that the modification was necessary or really beneficial. Also, if the animals were having defects or problems that weren't given consideration or had welfare problems with that, weren't being corrected or managed properly, I wouldn't be able to continue at the job.
Malaria vaccine from the teats of genetically altered goats. Let's scroll down here. I want to read something to you. Here, right here. These genetically modified animals lactate the vaccine proteins. At this point, the milk has to be treated to isolate the vaccine for injection, but the scientists hope to have drinkable milk vaccines within the next decade. How wonderful.
Regulatory bodies in the EU and the US are slowly starting to allow drugs produced by transgenic animals onto the market, but it's slow progress. In Russia especially, a lack of guidelines and solid regulation in this area mean it remains a controversial issue.
We feel that playing with genes could be dangerous for animals when people haven't fully studied all the hereditary mechanisms.
From cute pets to resource providers, as biofarming continues to grow, what these guys produce could soon very well end up in your medicine cabinet.